All right. We are live for the second, maybe a second or third, we can never quite figure out, of the Bald Americans podcast. So tonight on this podcast, we have Joshua, we have Lou, and we have Jarrett and myself. And we have a lot of America represented here, not only North America, but very north. I don't know if that's still, we have a lot to learn. And so you'll be our subject matter expert, Jarrett, on all things Canada. I learned I'm very clueless trying to read up on it. And
new 50.
Yeah, soon to be 51st state and your governor, whoever that's going to be. Congratulations on that, and fingers crossed. Got New Jersey represented, got the heartland here in Minnesota, and then Hawaii. So I think this is a good representation of America. The way we like to do this, I mean, the way we do any podcast is just kind of organic of what's going on, maybe what we have going on geographically. We jumped into it a little bit. In New Jersey, we have drones flying around. And I think that's probably pretty interesting. So we've all seen it in the news. And Lou, as our New Jersey subject matter expert, what's a true story?
I've seen them in the sky. They're aliens, man. It's alien. I don't know. It's an interesting topic, especially when you have a lot of friends that have actually seen them. So who knows? I mean, they won't tell us the truth. So doesn't mean we're going to find it out, but it's going to be fun when they really finally tell us what's going on with that. But it's strange. It's definitely strange. Apparently like the size of trucks too, which is even weirder to think of. We're just getting started, I think, with the funny stuff going on, right?
Yeah. So I mean, no, you don't go out at night, see what you can find or see what you see, or any neighbors or friends or anything reporting that they've seen one that you know credibly, because I mean, we watch news, but who knows, right?
Yeah. I just have friends that have taken pictures of them and seen them flying over. I don't have no one that's like seen it like super up close or was trying to BS somebody into just like trying to be someone cool on Instagram for the day or whatever. But plenty of people seen them, and it's even like, with the police department I work with, they got plenty of stuff going on and no one there knows anything about it. They're even like, they haven't told us anything. So that's pretty interesting because those guys usually know. They're pretty in tune with what's going on locally. They have a lot of facilities they got to take care of. So if they don't know anything, it's pretty interesting to me.
Maybe it's something like the Sasquatch, once we shoot one and catch one, then we'll know what it is.
Yeah.
The Duke's boys.
One apparently got knocked down.
They flew over my house. I've almost shot one over my house before.
Oh, yeah.
Already.
There was a guy in Florida that did that. They got him on federal FAA charges. Did you hear about that? That's they don't like that. Yeah.
He was like I think he was in his like late 70s too.
Yeah. Yeah, he was pretty old.
That guy should get an award for shooting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's actually an interesting question, right? Because you got Amazon and everybody talking about like how you're going to get your packages delivered with a drone and all kinds of stuff. And God only knows what's going to happen in the future with automated stuff delivering things to your house, right? And I don't know, what if you got someone that doesn't like you and they just send a drone to your house every day that hovers over your house, dropping a package worth 5 cents? It's just like, where does it go? And where do we create our new social limits on this type of stuff? It's a kind of an interesting question.
The limits are as far as my birdshot or my buckshot will travel.
Yeah. Target practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, where no one's claiming these drones, I think they'd be open season, but who knows? It is interesting to throw it out there as a topic, because you think about all the things that have happened in the last, let's just say 4 years, since 2020. Some pretty, like you said, Joshua, I think if you had a bingo card, the conspiracy bingo card, or just crazy events.
I had drones on mine. Yep.
Yeah, you had drones. Yeah, probably. Or UFOs or what, and no one's claiming them. It's Iran. It is an Iran. And then if it was Iran, what does that even mean? Like, what are they trying to do? And I heard something the other day that's kind of interesting, kind of related about, it's interesting not from the political nature, but really kind of from a leadership standpoint, that since the election, we really haven't heard from whoever is the president right now and his vice president who ran, but yet we've committed more money to Ukraine. We sent money to Africa. Things are getting done. It's just interesting. It's and no one seems to be really curious about it because everybody's got a pretty full bingo card by now. It's like we're just saturated with if something happened, if Sasquatch even came out of the woods right now, this is the time for Sasquatch to incorporate himself into society, because
Absolutely.
they go.
Yeah. We're so oversaturated, right? Like you said, like there's just so much going on. Like literally, if the drones were aliens, I'd just be like, all right, I knew they'd be here eventually. Like that's it's almost like the lame duck period shouldn't be a thing too. Like you're not allowed to go back in to be a president. You shouldn't be allowed to just do all this, start wars. And man, that's a loaded topic.
I think
we could talk 2 hours plus for that just right there.
I think if bare minimum, worst case scenario, it's a foreign actor, but actually, no, I wouldn't even say that. The worst case scenario is probably what I think it actually is it is our government trying to distract us from all the stuff that's going on. That's most likely the real, how is it that the Department of Defense and the Pentagon has no idea what this is, but they're not also shooting it down? Like if they're claiming they have no idea what these things are, it's these foreign objects flying above our country in record numbers, like all over the place, but they're not willing to shoot them down too. It kind of reminds me of the Chinese spy balloon that was floating over our country too,
Yeah, they know. It's funny. Me and my fiance were talking about this at dinner tonight, and she brought it up too. She's like, have you heard anything from work or about the drones? Like, it's really creepy. And she's like, they really don't know anything. I'm like, Tara, like, they know exactly what's going on. If they wanted to listen to our conversation right now, sitting here at this bar, grabbing a drink and some appetizers, they would know what we're saying down to the T. So they absolutely know what's going on. They're just choosing not to tell us for whatever. I think that's what's driving people more nuts, is that everyone pretty much knows they know what's going on. They're just, why won't they tell us? Like, just say it.
Well, it's probably under the same filing cabinet as the pipe bomber for the Democratic National Convention that happened 900 days ago that we still don't know about. Mm-hmm. And probably in the same filing cabinet as the two guys, one who attempted to assassinate, they both attempted to assassinate Trump. But we know more about this guy who took down the United Healthcare CEO. Yeah. We know everything about that guy, what school he went to, all these different things, but we haven't heard anything from those.
Well, that was on purpose, releasing all that again for distraction. And you got half the country that supports the guy, the other half, we can't have this, so 100% on purpose. And like you said, we didn't even know, we're lucky we know Thomas Crooks' name, you know what I mean? Let alone anything else about him, if anything. So
let me ask you guys this, because from a planning standpoint, the Luigi or whatever his name is, it looks like he put some effort in. He's a smart guy. He was a valedictorian at a school, Ivy League school. He took a lot of steps to not get caught going in. He paid cash for his hostel when he stayed in New York and all of these things. It looks like he was planning this out. And you're telling me that he's on the run and he's got the exact same gun, the exact same suppressor with him, a manifesto that he just happens to be carrying with him when he goes out to get a McDonald's burger, and all the evidence just happens to be with him. Right?
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Because he didn't appear to be an idiot at first glance in just the information that they have given us.
Well, so let's, that's interesting. There's so many things there. Here's another one too. And, I always approach it from the nutrition angle. I haven't been in a McDonald's for a long time. So granted, maybe they changed significantly, but I think the people that I would characterize in McDonald's typically aren't the most like spatially aware that would recognize a guy from like basically that, I recognized his eyes. He just really jumped out to me. He might have been suspicious looking if he had that on him.
Well, did you hear there was a full story about that the person who called told everyone? Because the person that called didn't get, it was a $50,000 reward.
Yep.
And he thought he was going to get the money. They didn't give him the money because he called 911 instead of the tip line. So the tip line was basically like, good luck, buddy, which is crazy. But he said he only called because two people in the McDonald's had said, that looks a lot like the guy they've been putting all over the news. And then the dude probably, I could get some money for this. So it's like a weird, if that's actually how it went down, which I could kind of see, it's weird. And after all that, the guy even said, he's like, well, if I knew I wasn't going to get the money, I wouldn't have called, because he just wanted the money, which is why they do those tip lines. I get that, but
Yeah.
It's interesting. He even admitted it. Like, well, I wouldn't have called if I knew I wasn't going to get the money. Who cares? It's not my business. You know?
And like you said, Dave, the last time I was in McDonald's was years and years ago, but it reminded me of, you ever seen that Chris Farley skit where he's the girl and he's like, I want your size, you know, and he's just like, I mean, like they're not even focusing on anything else. It's just feeding frenzy in there.
Yeah. I mean, anywhere, most people are head down in their phones, anywhere you go. And so it's surprising that would jump out. But what do you, so Jarrett, we got you, you're our Canadian expert. And I'm curious because, like I said, I looked up the Canadian election and we can get to that because I got a lot of questions. I'm so confused after reading one article about your election process. What do you hear? Like I know we've talked before and you said you kind of stay off just like I think all of us do, kind of stay off the mainstream news, whatever the local news, the national news, and we kind of, source our news through social media pretty much. How does a story like that of that CEO reach you in Canada and kind of what filters does it get through to you?
Sorry, my son's just walking in. You got to go.
Okay, that's all good.
I think we probably get the same information you're getting to some point. Like everything you've been talking about, I've gotten the same. As far as it goes, what do I think about? I think it's all nonsense. I don't believe anything that anyone on the TV or even social media is telling me unless I'm face to face with them. It's just so convoluted that how can you put any faith in any of it, right? I'm just going to make up my own mind. Like if that guy was smart enough to pull off all the planning and do it how he did it, and then he's sitting in a McDonald's with the same gun and all the same paper, like that just doesn't make sense to me. Just doesn't ring true in any way whatsoever.
I heard someone talk about this the other day that usually the most simple, easily explained explanation is the thing that it is, I mean, like
it's Occam's razor.
Any one of us, if any one of us committed a crime and we're trying to get away and run, like first thing I would think about is get rid of some of the evidence, not that I've ever done that or am condoning that, just saying that's my thought process.
Well, I think I'd hit the drive-through for sure. I wouldn't go sit inside.
So true.
Yeah.
Or if I was that dude, I would like shave my eyebrows. He had some pretty serious eyebrows. I'd be like, all right, trim those bitches off. Like stuff like that. Yeah, I'm with you guys 100%. If he was so smart to set up, he spent all that time covering his face in the city, which, guys, I'm in the city all the time. There's cameras everywhere. Like, they definitely knew who it was before they told us. But he spent all that time covering up and the cash and the fake ID and this and that. And then all of a sudden you're, like you said, you're sitting in McDonald's you had like 10 days. You didn't throw the gun in the water or nothing. And I don't know. That, like, it doesn't make sense. And like you said, Joshua, maybe it's the simplest explanation that it doesn't make sense. Maybe it's because it's not the real one.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yep, it's tough. It's difficult, but I think like all of us have come to the conclusion that we'll trust what we see with our own eyes, especially after so many years being told not to trust what we see with our own eyes, and then that typically being the truth. It doesn't serve anybody well to not know what the truth is and not be able to trust anything. But so maybe more to come on that, right? And then that trial will last a year and everybody will forget about it and it'll be out of the news cycle. On the story that I read, Jarrett, so I've like I said, this I'll sound like a second grader asking this question, but we're so America centric. In our political process definitely takes all of the news cycle. But I read an article, and so correct me if I'm wrong, that Pierre Poilievre, I even looked up how to pronounce his name because it's very French sounding. He is up for the Conservative Party candidate for Prime Minister in 2025. And here's the thing I was confused about. I think I got that right. And it said that in polls, he's leading by like double digits. It seems favorable. It said the election will happen sometime in Canada before October of 2025. That's what I was confused about. How do your elections work? Is it a day you all go and vote, or how does this work? Educate us,
Well,
like 6-year-old.
I think this one coming up here has been just thrown all over the place. What usually happens is we have the same sort of 4-year cycle, and he's the leader of the Conservative Party, so he'll be Prime Minister if they win. And then you have Trudeau for the Liberals, and you have, I believe it's still Jagmeet Singh for the NDP. So we have like 3 main parties and then another couple other ones, Green Party and that. But like the last election, Trudeau won, and he didn't even win. Like Conservatives had more seats, more of the popular vote. Sorry, not more seats. So I think Conservatives won with about 35%, or they didn't win. Sorry, they garnered about 35%, and the Liberals had 32%. So the Liberals had more seats. So then they take power, but they don't have any real governing because they don't have a majority. So what the Liberals and the NDP did was they teamed up so that they have enough support to pass legislation and allow the Liberals to stay in power. So basically what you have is you have a government that didn't win, that's in power and being supported by the third party that had no, like almost no support, maybe 17%. And it's just, it's such nonsense that I don't even trust it at all. I vote all the time. I do every bit I can. I vote for all my public elections, like all of the local ones and everything. You know, it's kind of the same as what you guys have. You don't really know if it's legit or not. Our election is supposed to be, I was trying to find the actual date that it's supposed to be scheduled for, and I can't find it. But what happened, well, I think maybe even a year or two ago, is that he lost support. So then there was a call for him to call an election. And like I said, the NDP backed him up. So it just made it so it was null and void. So our basic, the ways we can hold someone accountable, or they just don't even work if they've got a buddy that'll team up with them.
That's interesting because that almost exact same scenario or very similar happened in France this last year.
I was
where the
just going to say
Conservative
that.
Party was ahead, leading in the polls pretty dramatically. And then they had like a Socialist Communist Party that came up a month before the election and then teamed up with the Liberal side. And then all of a sudden they combined. I think they even had the election and it looked like the Conservatives were winning. And then somehow they finagled their votes for the other party to, I don't know. I just remember hearing a story about that.
No, you're 100% right.
But
all signs up here point right now to a Conservative, almost a landslide victory. Way more favor, way more support. I think Trudeau actually had 24 of his members actually sign petition like to get him to step down, and he's just refusing to step down because they know that if he's in the figurehead when they go to election, they're just going to get steamrolled. And he said, nope. He said, we've had troubles before, and we're going to just get through them with me as the leader. So I'm super optimistic.
Well, it's almost like and you should be, because the whole world, including it was proven in America with, the Nazi Trump or whatever you want to call him, that, there's different countries in the world, but because of the internet and stuff now, everything is much more tied together. And it's no secret that over the last 10 or 15 years, the entire world has pushed so far, has moved the Overton window so far to the left. Everybody across, and almost every, modern country is sick of the shit. So you should 100% be optimistic, Jared, because the reality is that's the way the people are feeling.
Yeah.
Whether the government's like that or not, we're going to find out. But like you said, Joshua brought up France, perfect example. The people of France were sick and tired of all the immigration and everything. And
Brazil,
the swamp creatures worked their way into figuring out how they could grasp power for another. I mean, France government's basically stalemated right now because of that. They can't do anything till 2026. So France is pretty much, they can't do anything legislative wise because of the decisions they made. So they can't help with immigration. They can't reduce immigration. They can't increase immigration in France. And who knows? We'll see what happens for you in Canada, Jared. I mean, or you just become the 51st state with us. And
guy can dream, hey?
Well, let's leave. Well, are you in Vancouver?
The puppeteers have got their strings a little tangled up worldwide.
Yeah, or they can't walk down the marble steps at Luxembourg like good old Nancy.
I think if we're going to adopt Canada, we should take the middle of Canada and leave the west and east coast.
Yeah, how's Canada work? Is it the middle that's very conservative and the coasts that just like us are more liberal?
Sort of western, middle to west, sort of. BC, a large part of it is conservative, but the coast is completely liberal. And then you have Alberta, which is basically Texas. And then you got Saskatchewan, which is like Texas, but less football teams. And then you have Manitoba. Okay. Manitoba's all farmers, farmland, just solid people. But then you have Ontario and Quebec, and they just take over everything. They own everything. They own the power for everything. And then in BC, you have Vancouver and Victoria. Like, we can't have grizzlies because of the people in Victoria and Vancouver, and yet they're like all over the place. They're in my backyard. It's illegal to go get them. It's the same as everything. They control it when they have no real sense of how things actually are.
Sense of reality.
Well, that makes sense because my wife's Canadian and most of her family is from Saskatchewan and Alberta. And I like that analogy because they seem like Texans, you know. I haven't met one of my family members or friends up there that are pro-Trudeau.
Well, you'd be so hard-pressed to find anyone up here that is. So it's confusing.
Makes you think.
Yep.
Too much.
Yeah, Minnesota's a mini America. If you look at the state, the way the elections fall, the Minneapolis area is, of course, extremely liberal. And then the north part of the state, very northern by Lake Superior, is the coal mining. And so a lot of the mining unions and stuff will vote blue, but otherwise the rest of the state, it's just that there's such a concentration of population in Minneapolis. So, yeah, it'd be nice if, again, another thing, it'd be nice if we could trust, if there was some transparency to trust a process like the way you vote for the leader of your respective country. I was going to ask Joshua, I wanted to kind of, draw out a little bit of what we have as far as discussions in our Forge Ferocity team. So one thing that the four of us have in common is that we joined a kind of an accountability group. None of us know exactly what to call it, called Forge Ferocity, led by Greg Anderson. And we get a lot of great conversations about, just accountability and kind of, discipline in our lives and working through issues and working through those issues by showing vulnerability. Something that you had a chance to be a part of and, share as much as you'd like is a group called Aerial Recovery. And I know that we've talked a little bit, but when we typically talk on the Zoom calls, it's 12, 16 of us, and none of us really go too deep on what's going on. Maybe you could share a little bit about the group itself and then the work that you'll be doing with them. I guess that's probably the biggest question. I know that you went on a retreat, if you want to get into that. And then definitely the horse ceremony for talking about vulnerability would be a great thing to share with a wider audience if you're comfortable in doing that. And then kind of what does the future look like with that aerial recovery for you? Because that's every time I see that group on social media, you're doing some amazing work with some great groups.
Yeah, hold on one moment. I'm just going to do something real quick.
They've been going by the window nonstop.
Yep. Did you hear him? I was just telling him, and then we sidebar my son just shot 2 deer, so he's filling the freezer right now, and they're talking outside the window. So
it's a Hawaii thing for sure.
It's just so funny when he says, "Oh, it's just 2 deer, like no big deal." It's not just like Hawaii axis deer or anything, anything crazy,
Well, this is the crazy part is I get a text from him the other day, or he just told me, he's like, "I'm gonna go for a quick walk," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he walked he's probably gone like a half an hour, and I get a text from him, and he's like, "Dad, I just shot a monster buck. I need your help getting it out of the woods." So where he was like pretty thick and a lot of brush, and so I drive down, go help him pull the thing out, and I'm kind of waiting for him to get a little bit. He's like, "I'm gonna field dress it, and then I'll text you when I'm ready to have you come in and help me drag this thing out." And I'm like, I text him, "Hey buddy, I'm here. Didn't hear anything. Mac, you get my text?" "Oh yeah, sorry Dad, I just shot another deer. They all came in after I shot that deer." So he had 2. So we had to go in and haul out 2 deer. But that's the life of a Maui boy. So
rough problems to have.
Yeah. So I always say this, that, over the last couple of years, it's probably the first time in 25 years I've talked about maybe leaving Hawaii, just because of the way that the lockdowns were and everything was pretty draconian. But I go back to just the abundance of life and being able to survive off the land out here. And it's so enticing. Like I do not have to get a tag. I could literally shoot 100 deer in one day, and that's totally legal and totally legit. I just wouldn't get any sleep because I'd have to process all of them. But yeah, it's a really great problem to have. There's no shortage of food in that regard. So, but yeah, as far as aerial recovery goes, I got nominated to be part of this program called Heal the Heroes, which at first glance or first hearing about it, I kind of brushed it aside. I didn't think I was going to get nominated. And fast forward a few months, I got a call from this guy, and he asked me if I had a U.S. passport and said that I had gotten nominated out of, however many hundred applicants that, people who nominated people. And I was like, oh, kind of taken back and surprised. And so I started looking into it. I was like, what is this thing that I actually said, yes, I'm going to, I would go to? I didn't think anything was going to come of it, like the guy who nominated me was another firefighter who kind of had his own battle through the COVID nonsense. And he had followed my story when my son passed away online. And so we were like social media acquaintances, I wouldn't even say friends, but like, every once in a while his posts would pop up, and he was the guy who nominated me. But I ended up getting nominated to this thing. And the first portion is called Heal the Heroes. It's a year-long program that they do, but their whole mission is to take first responders and military veterans who have dealt with either work trauma, childhood trauma, who have maybe, had, mistreatment from the government or whatever, and give them purpose again, help them get back on mission. Because the statistics for those professions are pretty significantly high with suicide. And, but I would say this, like even going through that program, I think the program would benefit majority of men in our culture and society today. Just because if you are a man who's on the path to pursuing personal excellence, masculinity, being a good father, being a good husband, pushing back against the darkness that we all see coming in North America and worldwide right now, you just take the brunt end of it all the time. The media is mocking us and shitting on us. Obviously, entertainment, the movies and TV shows, like every father on every sitcom is just a blubbering idiot, and they make us look stupid and dumb, and our masculinity is toxic, and the program actually would benefit just a lot of majority of guys in our country. But we arrived on island to this place, and the people who started Ariel Foundation is this lady named Brittany Turner and her husband Jeremy Locke. Jeremy Locke is a former Green Beret, and they realized that there was a need for first responders and military veterans to have a purpose, something to live for, and that they're also the best people suited for working in emergencies and helping people. So the first phase was to work through, the traumas of our careers, maybe our childhoods, and the things that are holding us back from believing that, we're good people or that we're valuable in this life. And that experience was absolutely life-changing for me. I've been dealing with, death and trauma for the last 15 years as far as my profession as a firefighter. And then on top of that, had the death of a child, a brother, family members, my wife's father and her stepfather, who I love dearly, her brother, line of duty deaths within the fire service, and just a career that was very busy and had a lot of exposure to pediatric fatalities and living in an island, responding to people that you go to a car accident and you're picking up your friend's leg who just got hit on a motorcycle and loading that into the ambulance because you know everybody on an island, I mean, not everybody, but you have an awareness, and I've definitely responded to friends' houses and family members and that kind of stuff. And that really weighs heavy on you. So I've been dealing with this stuff for quite a few years and have been on the path to turning my pain into purpose. And I felt like I was in a pretty good place. And I would still say that, I've been doing the work. I've been working on sobriety. I've been reading a lot of books on mental health. I've been working through my wife's program. My wife coaches moms who have lost children, and she's got a program. And so I'm vicariously living through her program, the things that she's having her moms do. So a daily gratitude practice, daily movement, eating clean, and doing those things. And so again, like I said, I felt like I was in a pretty good place, but going there, we just did a deep dive in the things that are really exposing us. And the only way I can really explain it is the battle of good and evil. I think, you guys know this, and I'm a Christian. And so faith is a huge part of my story, my belief system, but I don't believe that, everything is just happenstance. I believe that there's a battle of good and evil. And yeah, I would say even some of my friends who are not spiritual or not faith-filled are starting to recognize that when they see the things that are going on in this world, that it's not just a couple of bad actors, that there's like this darkness that is prevalent in our world. And it's my belief that that darkness, is the enemy of the world, or Satan, what my beliefs would be, wants us as men to not be men. If he can take us out of the game, whether through inactivity, whether through fear, whether through believing lies that we've been told about ourselves, we become useless. This world is a battle. There is a battle for good and evil. And God made us, again, these are my beliefs, but I believe God made us to be warriors and to, as men, masculine energy to stand up and push back against that stuff. But if I'm medicating and I'm drinking or I'm using drugs to escape my pain, if I'm scrolling on social media and checking out and not being involved with my children's lives because it's too much work, if they're getting me to be, if the enemy is getting me to be complacent or wanting to be comfortable instead of challenging myself, like as men, we are designed to fight battles. It's in our core being. I think that's part of the reason why our country is as crazy as it is right now, is because we are in such a comfortable society where we can drive up and get our food. We don't have to fight the neighboring tribe for land. We don't have to hunt and get our food, except for obviously some of us on this podcast do. But because of that, people are inventing problems. Instead of, there's something in us maybe a show of hands, or I just ask you guys this, but do you guys have the drive in your life to be a problem solver, to be someone who stands up against stuff that's wrong? Like, that's just part of our nature, right? But if the enemy can get us subdued or comfortable, complacent, or even get us to kill ourselves, then we're not going to push back against that darkness. And that's what this whole program's about. It's about showing us those lies that we've been told to ourselves, that have been told to us by ourselves, by culture, by media, and by the enemy. And once you start to realize that and you see your eyes are open to that, like I wake up every morning and I put on the full armor of God, and I try and get ready for battle, because that's my mission. That's my purpose. And I'm not going to be taken out just because and it's actually kind of revived my spirit a little bit, knowing that I've got to fight. I've got something to train for. I've got something to stand for. And I think that's what the whole Heal the Heroes program is about. I didn't get really into the disciplines or the modalities that we did there, but that's kind of the synopsis of what it is.
Yeah. Just really quick, you mentioned something that this could be a program for men, regardless of background. I think that it's fitting for men who have served, whether it be first responders here in the United States, or if it be in the military overseas, or in that area for aerial recovery, that's a good outlet. I know we talked a little bit about something that you said there. I think that there is, when we talk about a search for the truth. So within Forge Ferocity, I think we collectively are vulnerable a lot. We talk about seeking truth, being the best versions of ourselves, being accountable for our actions, protecting those that need protecting, and where our heart's at and where our mind is at, and making sure that those are clear through, you mentioned like substances, Joshua. I keep a little sheet, because I went to a Wild at Heart retreat, and not taken away from it at all, but to reinforce what you said there, when you talk about seeking truth, with aerial recovery or retreats like Wild at Heart, or if you go to these, a couple of things that stood out there is we went over the verse from Exodus 15:3, and it said, "The Lord is a warrior, the Lord is his name." And I believe, as a Christian as well, that we're image bearers of an almighty God, and not a meek God, not a weak God, and that we're not called to be meek, and we're not called to be weak, and we're called to protect those who need that. And then another verse is, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." And I think that's, like we always talk about, if you're Christian, that works. If you're not Christian, but you're seeking truth, and you're trying to be a protector for your loved ones, your wife, your family, your friends, it's just like Proverbs. If you like the Stoics, read Proverbs. It works, But the point of that is that you're right. Men need that. Wild at Heart program would definitely come out straight out and say that there has been a demasculation of the male heart and the male mind, and what we're by nature probably aligned to seek out in our lives is being called toxic, and it's we're being canceled because of it, and that even that state of just living our true selves is kind of diminished. So just to reinforce that a little bit with what you said, I know that was a common theme in the retreat that I attended, but I'm curious, you went to initial retreat and you came home and you said, kind of rejuvenated, putting on the full armor of God every day. What was maybe what was one of the things that maybe decided that course for you? I know, like I alluded to the horse ceremony, and for those who follow aerial recovery, I actually went online. So maybe you want to explain that, because I went online because it's so beautiful. I think they had shared it and you had shared it through your social media, but I think it was through a story. So now it's gone to the world of was on social media. But maybe you want to share that a little bit, because I think that is extremely powerful, having heard it secondhand from you.
So I'll do my best to explain it. But one of the, forgetting the what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like exercises that we did was an exercise of looking at the doubts that we have as men, looking at the things that hold us back from pursuing our dreams or our calling, looking at the negative self-talk that we have in our heads, looking at the things that the media says about us. And so we spent a bit of time going through this. And one of the exercises we did, they said, let's now revisit those things that we've been talking about. Like, many of the guys there have attempted suicide or had a suicide attempt story. And what were the things that you were hearing in your head during that time? And not everybody had a suicide story. So I'm not saying it's just if you're in that really, really dark place that you're going to hear these things. I think it's more common, again, like I said, for every man. We all have those things. But, when you're going through those things, those voices are screaming in your head. And, like Greg shared on his last podcast, those voices got really loud, right? And that's when those dark moments get extra dark. But I think on a daily basis, we wake up, we put our feet on the ground, and that war has already started. Oh man, I'm not good enough today. Man, I'm too old for this. I can't, I'll share with my things or negative self-talk that I've heard. And this exercise was to look at the three most frequent ones that we had heard. And so for me, when I lost my job over standing up against the COVID stuff, I had to start all over. I hit the ground running. I had to provide for my family. And thankfully, I had a lawn maintenance business that I had started part-time to teach my boys work. But, like here I am now in Hawaii, one of the most expensive states in the United States. And I'm, even as a firefighter with a good, consistent job, I'm living basically paycheck to paycheck. And now I don't have a career. And I've got, 5 mouths to feed. And even more if you count the pigs, the dogs, the chickens, and all that stuff too, right? So I'm looking at my life and just going, man, I've got some dreams and some visions and some things that I want to do, but I'm too old. Like, look at me. I'm already washed up. I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out, and I'm starting too late to accomplish those things that I want to do. That was like probably my number one. And even just looking at those words, like exhausted, if you look at the definition of exhausted, it means like you're spent, you're used up, you have no more purpose. And that's a lie. Whether it's me telling myself that or it's Satan telling me that, there's more that I can do. In fact, there's been people who have had to start over even later in life than I have, and they've gone on to accomplish many amazing things. And so if I hold on to that in my head and I start believing that, it's a limiting belief. My mind, our minds are very powerful. And if we hold on to something and are thinking it in our mind, or we're saying it in our mind, and we're giving that negative talk a place or some real estate in our mind, it's going to prevent, our mind is going to believe that and prevent our body, our mind, our spirit from accomplishing those things. One of the other ones I had was my family would probably be better off if I wasn't here. And I know that's a lie straight from the pit of hell, because, I felt like a failure. I even doubted my decision standing up against the vaccine. Maybe I should have just gotten it, because then I wouldn't be in this position right now. I'm a failure. Like, what? I wonder if my wife thinks I'm a failure. My kids think I'm a failure. Which none of that is true, because my kids were, the day that I got fired from Maui Fire Department, said they were so proud of me for standing up for what I believed in and standing up for freedom for them and their future. But whether it's culture, whether it's the enemy, whether it's my, my inner bitch voice that Andy Frisella calls, or the go back to cartoons when we grew up, right? You have the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder, right? It's those things that you start to believe about yourself. And one of the things they brought up, which I thought was fascinating, again, like we start getting beat down from day one. Like, you think about, you're in first grade and you go out to a new school and you're the new kid on the playground, and you go up to the kids and you're like, "Hey, I'm Joshua. You want to play?" And they're like, "Get out of here, loser. You're not part of our group." And like right there, as a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, you hold on to that and you're like, deep in your subconscious, you're like, maybe I'm not cool. Maybe I'm not good enough to be part of that crew. And then you hold on to that and you carry that for the rest of your life. Other people have different things that affect them. But I remember all the times I got bullied as a kid. I still remember those moments. And so if you allow those places or those things to have real estate in your head or in your mind, it almost takes you out of the game. You can start to make excuses for it. You can start to get complacent. You can start to believe those things, which is even worse. And this exercise got us to write those things down and really start talking about them. Do you truly believe that? Is that something that is real? Are you washed up? Are you done accomplishing everything that you want to do? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I know deep in my soul that's not the truth, but I still give that space in my head. So we wrote all these things down, this really powerful group of men. And I didn't get into this, but to me, to be invited to this island was really special because I looked at the guys there. I've always had a great respect for our military veterans. And in this group, there was, Navy veterans, SEALs, Green Berets, Army Rangers, MARSOC Marines, like these guys who are just like studs, physically, mentally, just, they're warriors. Every single man in that room had a list of these beliefs that we've held on to since we were a kid. Or maybe you had an abusive stepdad like I did, who said, "You're just a piece of shit. You're a cockroach. You're useless, And it fascinated me that I wasn't the only one. And that all these guys who I looked up to in this room all had similar experiences, maybe different. So that was the beginning part of the day. Then we go down to the equestrian center, and they've got these beautiful horses down there, and it's on the beach. They've got like this big barn that's open right on the white sand beach, so the setting is amazing. You've got these big majestic creatures. And then they start telling us the story of these animals. There was 4 horses there. There was Moonshot. He was a giant Clydesdale. And I might mess some of this up, but, they said he was a workhorse on a farm I think a farm, and they got a bigger, stronger horse, and they decided, you know what, we don't need him anymore. We're going to send him off to the kill shelter. The next horse was a horse named Titan, which was probably one of the coolest horses I've ever seen. But he was supposed to be a certain breed of horse, and my daughter would probably laugh at me because I don't know my horse breeds, but it's supposed to look a certain way. But this horse came out spotted like a Dalmatian, and the owners decided that the horse was ugly and not what they wanted, so they sent it off to a kill shelter, and they got a new one. The next horse was a horse named Ranger, and he got injured, and the family didn't want to spend the money to rehabilitate him. And so they sent him off to the kill shelter. Then the last horse was his horse Spirit, and Spirit was part of a family. They had gotten the horse for their daughter, and then she went off to college. And once they went off to college, they decided, yep, you know what, Spirit's not part of our family anymore because our daughter's gone and we don't need her anymore. So that horse got discarded by its family. Then Brittany, the lady who was running this exercise, says, I want you to go stand next to the horse that you resonate with their story the most. And so all the men went to the different horses. Some guys were injured. In fact, one of the guys who, I'll get into this in a second, but one of the guys who I met there had been shot 18 times in Afghanistan. So he got injured. And of course, he went to Ranger. That was the horse that he went to. And then he got discarded. He got kicked out of the military after getting medically discharged. And Brittany then says, okay, she brings out the basket of index cards. So we wrote those top 3 negative things that we heard on index cards. And we all put them in a basket. They shuffled them up. And then she brought that basket back out and said, everybody grab an index card. And so everybody grabbed an index card that wasn't theirs. But the guy who went to Ranger, I grabbed his card and he grabbed my card. So that was kind of another little nudge from God to pay attention to this thing, because I was just blown away. And again, this was such a profound exercise that it changed the way I looked at everything. So knowing that I was reading these really heavy things that this man wrote and he was reading the same things as me, afterwards, I was like, man, it just pulled on my heartstrings. So we were then told to take your index card that you have and read those things to the horse. Not like you're reading like I'm a piece of shit, but you're reading them to the horse as an individual. So guys went around the room, and they're like, you're looking at this horse who has so much empathy and love in its eyes, and you're like, you're a piece of shit. You should just kill yourself. Your family won't miss you. You're starting over too late. You're never going to accomplish what you want in life. You're a loser. You're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. And all these, I mean, just at this point, I'm just crying hearing these things, because every single one of those cards, every single one of those things I had said to myself at one time or another. Even though they weren't my top three, I had heard those things said in my mind, in my brain. And I was the last person to go. And the whole time I was just going like, I'm not gonna fucking do this. I can't read these things to this animal, this like majestic, beautiful animal who's looking at me with love and compassion. But I didn't want to be the last person to, or be the person to ditch out on this exercise. So I did it. And I was just like, just weeping as I'm reading these things to Spirit, which is the horse that got discarded by its family. And I went to that horse because I felt like when I went through COVID, I got kicked out of the brotherhood. I felt like my family just pushed me aside, and it weighed heavy on my heart. And again, like I've been working through this stuff. I didn't realize that I was carrying that around in here, in my chest, my soul. And this horse was just looking at me with empathy. And then they said, part of the exercise earlier that morning was to refute those lies. And what are the things that God's word says about us? What does truth say about us? What does our family actually say about us? And the fact that like my kids said they're proud of me, that God says I'm a child of God and I am loved, that I am his greatest possession, that I am a treasure, that I'm adopted into a family, that nothing can separate me from the love that God has for me. And so they gave us paint to actually paint and speak these things to the horse. And so the two things that I wrote down on Spirit were, you are loved and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. There's no mistakes. God did not make you a mistake. Where you're at right now is not a mistake. That's what that represented to me. I didn't write all that stuff out, but I wrote, you are fearfully and wonderfully made and you are loved. And the moment I did that, that horse turned and just put its head right on my shoulder and just nestled into my neck and just gave me love. And this is what I realized that morning was that I'm sure you guys have heard some of those negative self-talks, maybe not the exact same thing that I've heard, but you've heard yours. But imagine those things that you are saying to yourself, or that Satan's saying to you, or the media is saying to you, you're just a bumbling idiot. What would you do if someone said that to your daughter, or to your wife, or to even your dog, or to an animal, a horse? Like, you would fight that person to the death, or at least punch their nose, right? But we say those things to ourselves almost every day. And so that turned a light on my mind that there's a Bible verse that says there's power of life and death in the tongue. And then another thing that Dr. Billy Alsbrooks, who was one of our speakers there, said, he said that we are children of the Most High God, the King of Kings. And if we are a king, kings don't talk like peasants. And so we have to use our words in a way that don't belittle, don't put down, don't cause death, don't lie. If we are going to be the men that we are called to be, that longing and desire that we have in our heart to be good, strong, masculine protectors and defenders and providers, then we need to speak life into our life, that I am going to do that. I am going to do those things that I need to do. I'm noble, I'm honor, and I'm worthy because I will lay down my life to protect my family and provide for my family and do those things. And so I've really been doing a deep dive into the words that I'm telling myself every day. And I'm trying to meditate on the things that I know to be true. And I can't explain it, but it's working. Like I wake up in the morning and I read my mission statement. I read what my purpose is here on this earth that I wrote down, which is another one of our exercises. And I believe that. And you know what? It's motivating me. And our brain has this thing, there's actually neuroscience behind it. It's called a reticular activating system. Have you guys ever wanted to buy a red Toyota? Or whatever, red Chevy, whatever truck it is, right? You get this vision, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that everywhere, right? Our brain starts filtering things through the things that we're thinking and believing in. And once you start doing that, you start recognizing those things. It's not like there's all of a sudden an abundance of Chevys around. They're always there. But once you set your mind on those things and you start believing those things, I'm going to get a Chevy, I'm going to get this, I'm going to win, I'm going to start this new business. I'm going to do these things. Your brain starts finding ways to look at it. First of all, it filters the way that you look at things and take in information. And it starts filtering that information to allow you to accomplish those things that you know to be as truth. And so again, when you start speaking truth to your life, when you start speaking truth to your loved ones, it can change the world.
Yep. You know, the reticular, you know, when I went out to Washington, I came back wanting a Toyota 4Runner. So I can definitely attest to but no, I joke because that's it's such a powerful story. And, you know, I'm wondering, Jared, I got a question for you. One thing that I know, my Guns and Geese trip in August, and I'm sure Lou will nod his head on this, that created kind of space from our day-to-day, our normal Monday through Friday, the names that the world had for us and has for us or assigns to us, the relationships that are maybe damaging, it created space. And I think that, Joshua, you're saying that. I know when I went on the retreat later, the big thing was getting space away from not necessarily what would run us down, but what we can't get space from to create room to heal and to allow ourselves to assign new words to ourselves or even go through thought exercises like that. But Jared, you attended, it was it in October in Provo or November in Provo, Utah, the Guns and Geese with the Griggs, which are all
November.
And as I one November, okay. So the question there is, like, how did you feel coming down from Canada to Utah, getting kind of space away from, you know, the typical life? Did that kind of create opportunity to look at things a little bit differently, or did you get some similar effect that Joshua just mentioned, that chance to kind of create space from your normal life?
For sure. Yeah, no, it was a complete step away from my regular routine and regular people I'm around and every sort of influence that I have. It was pretty rushed and packed in. So next time I go, I'll definitely make a little bit more time, especially on the end of it, just to focus on really what I took from it. But it was a 14-hour drive straight down there. So I just boogied all the way down there, just excited to get there. I had to get there by 8:00 and I think I arrived at 7:30. And then, you know, I'm getting in the building and I know there's these former military and Rangers and Greg Anderson. Like, I built him up to be this huge personality in my mind, right? Over 4 years of listening to podcasts and just everything about that and people like him. And so I went in there and was just like, I don't know, humbled, but at the same time, like, part of it, you know? Like, I didn't know how I'd fit in. I didn't know what I would take from it. I didn't know really anything. I left no expectations whatsoever. I didn't set any expectations out for myself whatsoever. And that was great. Every bit of it was great. And at the end of it, really, I didn't take anything from it that I thought I would. Everything I took from it, garnered from it, was completely not what I was hoping for. Not hoping for, but what I expected. You know, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 3 years. So I thought, oh yeah, I'll have the jiu-jitsu part, you know, dialed in good enough. I'll fit in and whatever. And then the guns, I have guns up here, but I don't handle them seriously. Like, I don't do it like that. Like, I don't do it in a professional manner like we were shown. So I took a lot of good stuff from that. And just mostly from seeing how someone like Greg Lappin handled himself and Greg Anderson. They just handled themselves in like such a professional manner in every aspect of it that for me, it was really good to see that, because up here, like, even talking about the military and first responders, like, we have firefighters up here. I'm a member of the fire department here, volunteer, and we have our RCMP, but we have really minimal military influence. There's nobody I went to school with, I don't think, joined the military, right? It was a thought in my mind, but me and a buddy we came up with something else and we didn't go. So having a lot of time spent around people like that really added to, I don't know, just added to the occasion for me and gave me something to take away. How, you know, seeing how what they've been through and how they relate it to other people, how they handle themselves in everyday life. And yet at the same time, man, like, they could be falling apart, right? Barely hanging on by a string. And yet they're able to just put themselves out there in the most professional manner ever. It was great. Yeah, I don't know. It was really wild. It just, for me, it just means I need to do it again and then probably again.
I
Up
second
here,
that.
we have, like, say, we have such a minimal military influence. I think probably because Big Brother down south, right? And for me, without having a lot of experience in that, for some reason, it's such a powerful thing in my mind. Like when I think about how, Josh, you're talking about your group you went to catered to the military and first responders and that, and while it would work for everyone, to me, it seems like the most simple decision ever that those people like yourself, people like ex-military, they need it more than anyone because they're the strongest people. They can be relied on the most in any situation. And there's so much effort put into them to train them and to turn them into the machines they are and the capable people they are. And then the minute that they're no good and they're discarded, they get zero help, like they get none. It floors me that, especially in the United States, that your military is just so treated like such rejects, like just thrown away like a horse to the kill factory. I break down in tears when I think about it, all those people that work so hard and mean so much and have basically made our countries what they are, and then they're just discarded. Just blows me away. That's the situation we're in.
And I think, I mean, you probably know this doing what you do as a volunteer firefighter, but in order to do those jobs, you have to compartmentalize, right? When you show up and there's, a teenager ripped in half at a car accident, but there's other people trapped and you got to get them out. You have to, anybody who sees that, that's going to affect them. But you have to put that in a box, or I say it's like a backpack. You stuff 25 years of shit in a backpack and carry it around, and it can affect you, But you have to, in order to do the job and do it well and do it professionally, like you said, the Gregs and Joao, you create this system or organization to kind of compartmentalize stuff. But you're still dealing with those things, whether you realize it or not. And I'm not saying like, I had a very busy career. There was some calls that were just absolutely crazy that didn't really mess with me. And then there'd be something simple, like you go to a call where an elderly lady fell off her toilet and she doesn't have family around to help her and she's covered in shit and she's got like a broken hip and laying there. And that just like, it still weighs on my heart that there's not anybody to help that woman, and so I have certain things like that that have affected me deeply. And then there's other things that have been really crazy that haven't affected me. I don't know what the recipe is for causing that, but it does have an effect on you. And then, like you said, you get the administration or the government or whatever, and they just kick you aside and be like, oh yeah, we're done with you. We don't need you anymore. You were actually just a number. Even though we were trying to tell you, we were basically using us to do their dirty work. I don't want to use dirty work. It is dirty work. I'm sure killing people is dirty work, like a police officer, protecting people, having to put yourself in between, putting yourself in a situation where you could die pulling someone out of a burning building is dirty work. But you do that because you think in your heart, like, how would you want someone to treat me or my family in that situation? And so you're willing to risk it all and lay it down. And you're like, oh, this is a good, honorable thing. And then the government's like, yep, we're done with you. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, it's nuts.
We were just kidding about all that stuff we said about you.
Yeah. I guess, Dave, I got a little sidetracked there from what you asked, but as far as like making space to go down there, I was initially pretty nervous about it, right? And just being from Canada and knowing I'd be the only one down there and not knowing really what to expect. But, man, I got down there and like, I just took it easy, just chilled out. I relaxed. I didn't expect anything. I slept better in those 3 nights that I was down there in a shitty hotel than I have in 6-7 years at least. Like it blew me away. I was just like, this is the right place to be, man. And I got up in the morning, I had a little bit of time to just relax, get ready to go. And I wasn't nervous, wasn't worried. It was awesome. It was one of the best things that I've done in a long, long time. And like I say, all the things that I really learned about it and took from it had nothing to do with shooting or jiu-jitsu. It had to do with sitting in a sauna and just learning about other people and learning about myself in the course of it, seeing a bit more of who I should be and can be. I took that.
You know what
really good.
just think
out of it.
Sorry,
Jared,
you cut you off.
You just perfectly explained why I've went 4 times and I'll probably be going 20 times. And I'm biased because the way you went, like driving 14 hours by yourself, not knowing what to expect, is exactly what I did my first time. I went for class 4. I drove from New Jersey to Louisiana. It's like 1,800 miles. Slept in my car, for like 3 hours the night before. And I had no friggin' clue what to expect, like zero. And everyone told me, don't go, you're crazy, all that stuff. And I went anyway. And here we are. The only reason I got everything out of it, like I was just shocked. It was not what I expected. Like I said, I'll learn some gun stuff and jiu-jitsu. It'd be cool. I got so much more out of it. Again, I went 3 more times. I joined Forge Ferocity. That class I met Rachel and I met Greg and everyone else obviously too. But, now Rachel's one of my good friends, from across the country. So it's crazy it's amazing program. And the way you did it, if you ask me, I'm biased, but that's the way to do it. It's full blown immersion, no choice, go to your hotel room, wake up. I had breakfast every morning with people from class, you know what I mean? Just in the hotel. And no offense to any of the locals that go when like Greg has it at Washington or when they were doing it in Louisiana, there's a big difference when you're in your regular gym with a lot of the same people and you drive home after an awesome day on the range, but you go home. Like we had a lot of fun at we had our Airbnb, which was almost as good, if not better than the, training classes themselves. And you guys, Joshua and Dave, why? Because we spent more time together. We spent even more time learning about each other, and we'll get Jared in on that next. And
That's right.
That full blown immersion to me is, the driving down and just not knowing what to expect. That was the best part. And that catapulted me and wanting to do more of that and learn more, that urge for that. And here we are, I'm with you guys now, and we can thank Greg for a lot of that. In reality, I know he don't want to hear it, but he's a big part of that, reality is. So yeah, you almost can't describe it, right, Jared? It's almost indescribable.
Yeah.
That full blown immersion feeling to it,
Yeah. It's not something
But
that's like, it's not, well, you're not going down there worried about getting hurt. It doesn't cost $10,000. It's not like this huge expectations out of it. It's just a simple few days, just learning new things or going over stuff you already know, just meeting new people. Like it's wonderful. I can't wait for the next one. Like soon they're going to be where all it is repeat attenders and there won't be room for anyone else. I personally think that no one should tell anyone else about it, to be honest. I can't wait to get one now that I know you guys a little bit more. Like the next one's just going to be even better.
Oh yeah.
I think going back 100%, to what,
and Joshua, you said something, with the aerial recovery and going to it, and it's something you saw at Guns and Geese, and I work with a men's coffee group that we probably had 100+ guys cycle through now every Tuesday morning. Is that you get a vision of people, especially men, of each other, and you find men that you would say are leaders, or they've served, they're Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, and many of us know them, and you think they have it together. And then you get in a conversation with them, or you get in one of these exercises at these retreats, and you see, like, I always say, like, it's that duck analogy. Like on top of the water, the duck looks perfectly calm. You just go right under the surface, and that duck's legs are pedaling for all it's worth. And I think that so a truth is that every man, lives with turmoil right below the surface. And finding a group, finding an event to get space from your day-to-day, either on a regular basis or a retreat, is crucial, to explore that and to share that with other men. And I think that's something that we're all getting a huge advantage in doing. And events like Guns and Geese are, no brainer, as long as that's available, and something really would have to take precedence for me not to attend in Washington, next summer.
Can I say something real quick? I think that's kind of going back to what I said. I think it is for all men. We all have that turmoil underneath. And the biggest thing that I walked away from that is not tactical shooting or combat jiu-jitsu, which I did learn some of that stuff, but was that we're not alone. There's a lot of us who are experiencing what the media is saying about us, and those of us who believe in freedom and standing up for our rights and being protectors. The media and the world makes us think out to be we're crazy people, we're extremists because we want to be capable of these things. We want to be strong masculine men. But then you get around a group of people and you share space with them and you share time with them, and then you realize, like, oh, I'm actually not alone. There's actually a lot of people on this path, a lot of really cool people on this path, like all you guys. I mean, we're all good friends now because of these experiences together, and realizing that I can be real. I can, going back to truth, like you said, Dave, like I can be truly who I am. I don't have to stuff that down and hide it. I can be who I am, and we can support and encourage each other. So that's the biggest thing I walked away from Guns and Geese, was just feeling not alone anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, man. One of the biggest ways that we're being kept down is by being isolated, right? We get all of this bombarded by all of this nonsense, but I think, and what I took from it was that being isolated from people like me just it makes it so hard to come up to where you should be. And then when you meet a whole bunch of people, you don't realize that it's not that some of us are in the same boat. It's that all of us are in that boat. Like everyone that was at my class, I'm positive everyone had some issues that they were having to deal with on a daily basis. And like some are more serious than others. Some are like way more involved, but they're not any less. Like they don't take away anything from it. Yeah, I think just the togetherness and knowing that you're not alone is, for me, that was huge out of that. And everything with the Forged Ferocity, it's just amazing. And then in my little community, my little jiu-jitsu club, I've got 4 or 5 people now that I didn't expect them to come and join. And I'm developing really good relationships with them because we're just doing something that's hard together. And some of the most beneficial things is the 5 to 10 minutes after class. Forget what you learned, forget if you won or lost. It's that we just shared that space, and it's okay to be broken. It's okay to have trouble, to have issues with everything. We're all there for almost for the people that don't have them. I feel sorry for them because then they don't get to experience that connection. It's yin and yang. It's positive, negative. If you don't have bad, you don't understand good. If you don't feel isolated and alone and completely dejected and thrown away, then when you find that connection, it means way more. Like, so powerful.
So Lou, I'm betting you thought I forgot about you. I think we tossed you to the wolves, Lou, a couple of maybe months ago. Time flies, and you were kind of up for a leadership position after your work, and we were like, yeah, of course you have to do it, Lou, because you're Lou. And since then, I'm second guessing just because we don't get to see Lou as much on all our Zoom calls. So selfishly, I'm second guessing our advice to you, but you did something the other day I want to call you out for. For those of you who don't know, Lou, all of us are veteran dads. We got the kids running around, and now my kids probably can run over me. They're 20-some-year-old boys, and some of our kids are killing 2 deer a day, like Josh was, and so we're maybe in a different season of life. But Lou, you're getting going, and you're busy, and you're grinding. But something I saw the other day, you ditched out on us on a Zoom call, and then you sent a picture of you and your fiance spending time together and getting away on a getaway. And I'm proud of you, brother, because that's you're starting off shoeing the right foot. But how's life? So you're engaged. You're using the K word, kids, in the future. How's life, man?
Life is good, man. Like, you want to complain, but when you really think about it, you can't, in reality. Right? But it's chaotic. Fact of the matter is it's a little chaotic right now. We're getting ready for the wedding. We're working the most overtime we've ever worked. We had like 900 plus hours of overtime so far this year. So, I was talking with one of my guys the other day, and I'm like, money's great, but when you say 900 hours and then think about the things you could have done with 900. Now that's 900, your average work year is 2,000, add 900 hours of overtime on top of that, right? So think about 900 additional hours. Like, okay, yeah, I got paid for it, but you're not home, you're not with family. I'm not with my fiance that I'm getting married to, and then throw a commute in on top of that, and wears on you, but it's for good things. It's definitely
It's
nice
almost
getting
38
ready.
full days.
Yeah, yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts, and grateful for the money. Hopefully, President Trump gets that overtime tax thrown in there, but it's busy, and I think kind of what you were bringing up a little bit too is I have this union position, which has been ramping up. I had 3 days right in the middle of the week. We were dealing with hearings for various different things going on in the union, and kind of game planning for the future with that. And the reality with that is that our union president's retiring in 7 months. He's been doing this for 35 years on and off, and he's a wealth of knowledge. A new generation, my generation, I'm 31 right now. I'm 32. Not a lot of guys want to get involved in representing others. So I threw my hat in that arena and got the opportunity to do it. And probably within 7 to 8 months, I'll be having to move up that ladder into a more important position. And I'll most likely be the youngest vice president of our union. It's a little scary to think about. There's a lot of responsibility involved with it. I'd be dealing with 180 guys, in various locations, various issues, day, night, job titles, and you can't be an adult for them, right? Everyone's an adult. You make decisions as an adult. You're ultimately responsible. If you show up late, you could call me all you want, dude. You don't show up late, things like that. But it's a lot of responsibility for 180 people. Like you said, I'm talking about kids, and I'm nervous to see how the two are going to mesh, if I'm going to be able to do both, because it's demanding.
Sounds like
But I'm willing to try it.
Training for that.
Yeah. I'm essentially getting a crash course in the training for it right now, because unfortunately, just the way things worked out leadership wise in the union, there wasn't too much long-term planning set up, to no fault of anyone. But if no one stepped up, we could be in a really difficult spot.
At this and be like, wow, that was so nice back then. I had all of this time to myself, and all I had to do was deal with other adults.
I know. I'm going to say I had all this free time, and I elected to volunteer to listen to other grown-ass men complain. It comes with its own benefits, though. I'll be able to be home a lot more, especially if we do have babies. I'll be home a lot, which is definitely a good thing. It's not something I could sustain, though. It's a very demanding. It's phone intensive. It's not a sustainable thing for the rest of my career. So I'm going into that knowing that. And I'm excited to see where it goes, because it's a big challenge, especially if I'm throwing kids and stuff on top of that.
What's your plan for timeline?
But yeah, thank you for asking, Dave. If you could ask my fiance, we'd have one right now, ruin in the oven. But we're within a year. We want to get through the wedding. And two of my best friends have young ones. And I hear, when are they going to have friends, And luckily we're excited for that. I dated plenty of people in my younger 20s, and people always ask or whatever, like, how do you know? And like my fiance, just like, you just know who's the perfect person to have kids with. You know what I mean? Like, you just know. And I'm lucky I found it. So even if we had a baby tomorrow, other than, figuring out the new challenges of life, I wouldn't be worried about it, financially or anything else. So that's how I know I'm ready to go. I'm excited for it.
So I threw out earlier, and if my son's a little bit off too, it must be past a certain time here in small town Minnesota. My Wi-Fi got a little sketchy on me, but I apologize if I'm echoey on that side. So I'll try to talk less, which actually blessing all you guys. Joshua, I mentioned aerial recovery, and I guess one question I had with that, so that was an experience that you got to go to, planned with them, because I know, like, we saw them in North Carolina after the storms there. There's the human trafficking side of the operations that they do. Any work planned with them in 2025?
So the way that it works is you have to complete the year-long training program, which I'm going through right now. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there for a sec. But yeah, so I'm going through phase 2 right now, which is a 12-week operator program. And we're doing fitness, we're doing online Zoom classes. And then phase 3 is going to be a kind of a financial crash course on getting your finances in order, investing in real estate, crypto, stocks, that kind of stuff. Their whole goal is to give the people on their team a well-rounded approach to life. So obviously if my finances are squared away better, if I'm making more money through entrepreneurial endeavors, or I'm investing money and I'm not worried about missing work, I'm able to respond to these natural disasters or war-torn areas and stuff. But my understanding is we got to go through the year-long program. Phase 4 is where we start doing the undercover work and the SOAR program, which is kind of their natural disaster response stuff. And that's in person in Tennessee. And my understanding is that it's like a 2-day or 3-day crash course where you're in the wilderness, you're not getting much sleep, you're rescuing victims, you're doing rope rescue, that kind of stuff. And so once completed with that, you're able to hop in on some of the missions as an operator. So I started this in, I think October is when I went. I got to look back at my calendar, but so probably after 5, I can start going on missions with them. I think there's opportunities they do like mission trips where they go do humanitarian work where, let's say there's an earthquake or something, they'll bring in food and supplies. I can hop in on those. But as far as the rescue missions and the stopping child trafficking, I think you have to complete the course before you can do that, which I'm pretty excited about because, I have an awareness of the darkness that's going on in this world. You see stuff on the news here and there, but one of the things that I learned there is that the United States, our country, is actually the biggest consumer of child trafficking anywhere in the world. So there's a ton of missing children. There's a ton of people who are buying children for sex. There's prostitution, all of those things. And a lot of times what will happen is they'll take kids from, orphanages, or, if there's a natural disaster and a bunch of parents and stuff get killed, these, quote unquote, nonprofits that are actually evil organizations will go in and they'll take these kids and then they'll sell them into slavery, whether it's sex slavery or drug trafficking, prostitution, that kind of stuff. And it's pretty dark. They shared with us a story in Africa, and I wasn't even aware of this, but child sacrifice is something that's really big in Africa, where they have, the witch doctors will say, if you want your business to be blessed or to thrive, you have to have child sacrifice. And so right before, when we were there in the British Virgin Islands, we got a story from one of the operators that he got a text from one of their guys that they caught a guy with a duffel bag with several children's heads and body parts inside of it that they had kidnapped from another village. They'd killed the kids, and then now what they're going to do is give them to local businessmen to bury in the foundations of their buildings to give them prosperity or, bless their, it's just really, really evil stuff. So if I can get to the place where I'm financially secure, I'm trained up in this, it's definitely a mission that I want to hop on board with, because people like that need to be arrested. Actually, they need to be worse than arrested, but that's not really Ariel's mission. Is they're working at getting these folks put in prison for a very long time, and then also rescuing the children too.
Yeah, elimination seems like the answer.
Dude, being a part of that is, wood chipper. But
yes.
Dude, being a part of that's going to be super impactful, man. I mean, that's just the easy words to say off the top of my head. I mean, that's going to be amazing. It really is. That's going to be amazing.
Going through the Heal the Heroes program, or the operator program, one of our homework sessions early on was to come up with our purpose in our life. And I shared with you guys our eulogy exercise that we did. And from our writing your own eulogy, reverse engineering your life where you want to be. And then what we've been doing the last couple of weeks is breaking that down and pulling out themes or things that we want to do from these 6 different pillars. So your experiential pillar, your mindset, your spiritual, your relational, your financial, and I'm drawing a blank here, but one more, and then pull out the things from your eulogy that are in there, and then coming up with a mission statement. And for me, one of the themes that ran through my eulogy was helping people heal. And so my mission statement was, to my bedroom. I could maybe pull up the picture, but it's basically along these lines. Like, I want to glorify God by living a life where I help people heal from sin and trauma, specifically, all different people, but specifically families and the family unit that have experienced these kind of things. And so, it's going to be great for me to be part of arresting, getting these people captured. But, my heart is to help those children, help those people who are unwanted, help the people who are dealing with the trauma of seeing that trafficking, and help build them up so they're more capable to continue doing the work that they need to do. Again, it's just there's a quote from the movie Chariots of Fire, and I believe it's the guy's Terry. You guys remember that movie, Chariots of Fire? So anyways, it's a movie from the 80s about this guy who was going to college, and he realized he loved running. And his friends were trying to convince him to go back to seminary, to go back to school. And one of the things he says in that movie is, I feel God's pleasure when I run. And again, Ariel's mission is to give first responders and veterans purpose again. And my purpose, like, I feel God's pleasure when I'm getting to help people grow, heal from grief, heal from trauma, heal from these wounds that the world's put on us. And so when I get to do that work, it just stirs something in my soul and my spirit. And I'm like, that's it. That's the magic for me. So if I can help, I'm a new entrepreneur since losing my job. And I've had to explain to my son that, yes, my job is to mow people's lawns and do their yards and take care of that stuff. But he gets frustrated with me sometimes because I'll get calls from firefighter buddies or from friends that I have around the world who are, dealing with a crisis, maybe a suicidal crisis or a darkness. And I'm like, sorry, Mac, I have to take this call right now because that is my mission on life. It's not mowing grasses. That's how I'm paying my bills. But my mission is to help people heal. So just even having a great conversation with one of our Forged Ferocity brothers the other morning who was going through a family crisis. I delayed going to work another hour and a half because I talked with him on the phone for an hour and a half. But when I heard him smile and I was able to pray with him and just encourage him in that, like, man, that filled up my heart, my tank to just go out and do more stuff and do what I need to do. So that's kind of the mission that I'm looking at. And I don't know, I would I guess have that same question for you. What is it that you guys feel God's pleasure, like what is it that stirs in your heart that you're really passionate about, that you would do even if it was you weren't getting paid? What is that one thing or two things that you really know that God made you to do? I know it's a deep question. You might need some time to think about that, but
I think that, one thing we've talked about is a lot of what we're doing right now. Is just facilitating spaces for these conversations to be had. We've talked about it tonight, about the need for community, about getting out of your head, not accepting the words that maybe the world would assign to you or experiences would assign to you, but the true words, your true capability, giving yourself a chance to get away from, those stressors, and to get to know yourself better, realizing that you're not alone. You're not the only one dealing with issues, with that turmoil right underneath the surface. And I think that one thing that I've definitely been called to do is just to be a facilitator, just to do it on Tuesday mornings with men's coffee. And what that consists of is I make some coffee, I put out some chairs and tables, and guys show up and they have conversations like this, and they get into like how's life going, and hey, you're a new dad, I'm a veteran dad, you just had your first baby, here's what that's going to be like. To Jarrett's point earlier, we're not meant to live in isolation, and I think that was one blessing coming out of COVID, is that we were made to, whether it's weeks or months or years for some people in some places, live in isolation. And unfortunately that backfired, because that made people realize that they need fellowship, that they need community. that we need each other. And it also, I think it made a huge vortex. And that's why I'm calling it, because it kind of swirls around, and it grabbed a bunch of people that believed in truth, that believed in love, that believed in being protectors of their families, loving their wives, being good dads. And you see it now. We know Greg Anderson. Greg Anderson knows Andy Frisella. Andy Frisella is going to have Chad Wright on his show. And all these are men that stand up for something, and they stand up for truth. And in their messages, you boil it down, it's the same message because it's a message of truth. And I think that was the biggest blessing coming out of COVID. And I don't think it's done. So now going forward, I said, if your team was Team Trump, then your team won. And now the responsibility is to continue to get better. And then maybe we got some tailwinds to get better and to serve that purpose. But yeah, mine would be short answer, just to be a facilitator, to get those conversations going and to help men be better fathers and husbands, and just to help love themselves more and see the value that they inherently have.
You guys, we all on Forge Frosty talk about a lot of really deep things some days. And like this question, Joshua, and a lot of other topics that are brought up is, I don't know if I can answer some of them, because I feel like I still, not that I don't have anything that might get me to that point, but I feel like I still need some time to really hammer that nail in. And I feel like my perspectives on a lot of things are going to seriously change when I have babies. I think that's really going to help my perspective change to where I can feel really confident in giving you an answer to that question. Because the reality is I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but I don't know how to answer it right now, to be honest. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but I could say something, but I would be full of shit saying it. So,
well, if you're willing, whenever you have time, I'd love to go through the eulogy exercise with you, because that's what gave me the clarity for that. Looking at your life, I know it sounds like a morbid exercise, but if you were to die, how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah.
And if you're going to build a house, you have to have a blueprint. If you're going to build a good marriage, you have to have a path to get there. And, you have to have some goals. If you want to get in shape, you have to have a good diet and an exercise program, right? So all of those things. And what this does is it basically, you look at these different areas. How do you want to be remembered? How do you want your relationships to look like? How do you want your family to look like? Do you want children? Do you want to have a solid marriage? What are those? You answer those questions on how you want to be remembered. And then you look at it and you can kind of mine so many good nuggets out of there of, okay, so if this is where I want to be, what do I have to do for that to be true in 20 years? What do I have to do for that to be true in 5 years? What do I have to do for that to be true in 1 year? And then what do I got to do in the next 90 days to make that 1 year goal happen, right? And so that's kind of the work that I'm doing right now. And I get it, because if you would ask me this probably a month ago or 2 months ago, I probably would have answered very similar to you. But it's been really, really powerful for me to go through that. So no pressure. I'm not trying to, put you on the spot or anything, but I know just the type of man that you are, that, there's so much that you could accomplish. And so I know you're also not the kind of guy that's just going to go like, oh, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to guess that way, I'm going to figure this out, So like, if you can come up with a plan, it's just going to get you there, and you're going to accomplish that, because you're going to have that roadmap laid out for you.
Well, thank you. I do remember that exercise, and it should be on the short list of things to do. Just like what do we do? The values. I highlighted basically the entire page. I need to.
I did too.
Need to neck that down to, what was it, 2, right? I should do that, because I actually think I have it right here. But yeah, thank you, Joshua. These are like really powerful exercises, and I can guarantee you, no one I know is even knows about it or thinking about it. So thank you, because I'd be just like that. I'd be just mulling along my day thinking, why can't I get shit done in my life for whatever reason, So
to give you a little relief, it's a pistol squat type question. You ever do a pistol squat? A kind of one-legged squat with no weight. Yeah, it's not easy. And you do it by putting in the reps and kind of approaching it and strengthening other areas of your physical prowess. One thing I'll say about you is I got to know you, Lou. And for those of you who don't know Lou, here's a great story. He was the guy who our friend in Washington needed a road constructed. And Lou knew how to do heavy machinery. Well, Lou lives in frickin' New Jersey. And I think that was the first time you ever flew out and met Greg, right?
Yeah, well, I had met him at when I first drove to Guns and Geese.
Okay.
That was in like May, and I flew out to help Greg in about late July or something like that of the same year.
Yeah.
But
that's called
yeah, go ahead.
It's called fertile ground, Lou, for to be the man that you. And hey, I tell you what, when I was 32, I was nowhere near where you're at. I was a complete idiot. To put it very succinctly, no pressure on that one. Have some kids. We'll get married, and then I have some kids, and that'll start answering a lot of the questions about the man you want to become. It gets defined for you.
Yeah, and I grew up fast. You know, you guys know this. My dad died young. I was always responsible anyway. I missed out on a lot of young man shit. You know, the partying, and I went to a few, but nothing like some of my peers. And but the way I avoided a lot of stuff or my own problems or whatever you want to call it, I just worked. I was like, I like work. I'll go to work. That's how I avoided any of my, oh, my dad this or that or whatever. So I grew up kind of young, and I feel a lot of times I feel like I'm older than I actually am, probably because of maybe I am, but yeah, offering essentially a stranger to go across the country to help him with something, like Jared said that I listened to at once a week, wasn't too far out of the realm for me. I was like, what's the worst that could happen? It was an experience, the way Greg talks about when he went out with you, Joshua, for hunting, like, just the full-blown amazing weekend is how I feel about going to help him. It's like, I'll just never forget it. It was an awesome experience. We finally got some stuff done. It was a lot of fun.
So that's so rad. I remember hearing this story, maybe this podcast, of someone coming and helping them build the road. Now I'm so jealous. It's like, I wish that would be me.
Yeah, well, yeah, you do that, and I was rusty with equipment. I had to shake some rust off, but it came back pretty naturally. And I'll be honest, Jared, I wish you had bigger equipment. We could have got some serious shit done.
Maybe I can bring some down.
We made it work, man. Yeah. Yeah, you'll be doing like 24 hours driving slow with the equipment. You know what I mean? Yeah, next time we'll do, if he buys another piece of property, he'll have like the best road building team in the world, because there'll be like armies amassing to help him out. Yeah. But that was, and that was just to kind of point of that, I guess, too, is that was me just, Greg was nice enough to give me his phone number. I didn't bother him or nothing, and then he was talking about a lot in his podcast. And I was just like, why don't I see if he needs help? Like, that's all that went through my head. And it took me like 3 days to text him, to get the balls to text him. But I was finally just like, dude, do you need help? Like, I'll come help you. And it was that simple. Like, but I had to get myself to the point of putting myself out there. And then, of course, I'm flying on a plane 6 hours. I'm like, man, if I fuck something up, or if I suck at operating this piece of equipment, or, immediately your brain just goes in every direction.
That negative self-talk?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm just like, you know what? Just take it as it comes. Like, I know how to operate equipment. I could, whatever. And it just, yeah. But the minute after he said yeah, and I said yeah, it was like the negative self-talk was like a rocket ship, It was just never ending. So, yeah, it's crazy. I actually forget about that sometimes too, Dave. So thanks for bringing it up, because it's, another experience in the tool belt.
Well, you took action, and Yeah, I think you even discounted a little bit of that there. Just the people are willing to see a need and to take a step to address it. And that comes, I think that comes second nature to you and many of us in the Forge group. And now we're around that, and we don't realize how uncommon that is. But it's a beautiful thing. What do you think, Jarrett? You take a shot at the pistol squad of questions that Joshua threw at you there.
Well, I've played around with it a little bit in my mind. Anything that I come up with right now, as far as the eulogy go, would be absolute bullshit. What I would want people to think about me. Well, I guess I need to get myself in a position where I can read that person so that I can write those words down and know that it's not garbage. For the last little bit, the last year for sure, I've putting my mind to a whole bunch of possibilities and trying to focus on the fact that I need to do a lot of work, and not just work on myself, but I need to put in a lot of work for others, for those that need it, they can't do it on their own, because I'm in a position where I can. So instead of letting that opportunity pass me by and doing a half-assed job like I've been doing so many things for so long, that I need to just continue to work on being the person that I want to write the eulogy about. If I can get to the point where I can write it down and I know that it's legit, then I've done everything that I need to do. I'll be that person that I can write that about. Yeah, I'm not there yet. I got a long ways to go, but I've been improving continuously, slowly, but intentionally, and it's coming. There's great things coming for those around me based on what I'll be able to do, and therefore great things for me as a result. Like, I've been just stagnant and wasting good opportunities for so long that I'm not going to do it any longer. I've got a wonderful little community here that needs someone to just take the lead and provide something that isn't available. And I've already seen it starting to happen. I don't know. It's there. It's coming. I'd love the opportunity to work through that exercise, you, Josh, or Dave, in just a little bit.
I'm here for you whenever you're ready, brother.
Sounds like you're on the right path, dude, for
I'm
sure.
looking at just even the work that we did over the last 90 days, man. And I just, we talked about it at our meeting last time, but I'm just proud of you. Just the sacrifice and the dedication that you're doing, like you're already on that trajectory and just making generational changes even in your family. I'm sure your family noticed the sacrifices that you put in the last little bit, so it's powerful.
Hell yeah.
Well, anything else, guys? I think another episode of the Bald Americans here is coming to a wrap, and we got Canada representation, so it's the best one yet.
Yeah, we're inclusive.
I'm not the best representation of Canada, that's for sure.
Yeah, you are.
Thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
No, thanks for hopping
sure,
on, and I know we had talked a little bit before, and we always think, like, what do we have to talk about? What do we have to share? And I hope what everybody that listens to this is, a heck of a lot. We're just, we're all men, and we're all dealing with a lot of things that are right below the surface. And guess what? The tough things you would never deal with alone, we try to all the time, and we don't have to. And the guys on this call, or the guys on this podcast, have been tremendous helps for me. And I know that I've been able to help each of you a little bit here or there, and that's what it's all about. And it's not a destination. To your point, Jarrett, I wrote the eulogy for myself, but now I've got to live it, right? So now you've identified what role you have to play. And then when you clearly identify that, you can get down because you're not living up to that. And But the point is, we keep moving forward, that we learn how to endure ourselves and be the men that we want to be, and we help each other set that example for each other, and we're doing that. So if you're listening to this, I think things that we pointed out is, find community, that you can be vulnerable with, get space away from your day-to-day if your day-to-day is causing a lot of stressors, and get to know yourself better, and then develop a mission statement, start living towards that. And that doesn't have to be a mission statement, because I tell you what, Lou, I got mine now, and I wouldn't have known it 2 years ago, and I'm sure it'll be different 2 years from now. But we're living for something, and we're helping each other get there, and it's serving a good purpose, and we're doing the right things. A lot of good stuff's being done, and we're becoming better men along the path.
It's somewhat of an endless endeavor.
Yes.
Yes.
Something like that.
That's a perfect way to wrap it, man. All right. So, hey, love you, brothers. And thanks for another episode of the Bald Americans podcast. And if you're watching this, you'll probably find a little bit different crowd every one. And that's what's going to be so great about these, and different experiences and different stories. But get out and find community, and find somebody that you can be vulnerable with, and a community that you can contribute and add value to. And you'll never regret it.
Amen.
Amen. Love you guys.